but I binged the first season right before the second season came out on DVD, because this was in the long ago time where there was not Hulu. And I went on vacation with a bunch of my friends. We rented a cabin in Deep Creek Lake, which
Yep.
is far western Maryland. They got a place with a movie theater in the basement for me, and I
Aw.
binged almost the entire second season of Grey's Anatomy down in that basement. And
Wow.
I also read a whole bunch of Marion Key's backlist there.
I remember this. I
yes.
remember this. Yes.
And then I think our last full day there, I had 3 episodes of Grey's Anatomy left. My friends kidnapped me from the house, made me hike in the woods to a waterfall. I was a complete bitch about all of it, and I'm not sorry. You let me see what happens with my show. I don't want your nature time.
You know what you should read.
It's time for What You Should Read, the podcast all about the titles you need. Join 3 book lovers and a guest as they cover all the best new titles to enjoy with your tea.
I have that, but I haven't read it yet.
Hi, I'm Julia.
I'm Rachael.
And I'm Kelly.
And this is What You Should Read,
the podcast where we should all over our books.
So I've been thinking that I should get back into Grey's Anatomy, and I know you've both kept up with it the past 18 seasons. So do you agree? Is it the right time to jump back in?
I love it. Definite quality changes from time to time, but I always support getting back to Grey's Anatomy.
I would agree. I actually recently did the same thing because for some reason I ended up on Grey's Anatomy TikTok, and everybody is like posting things about the show, and I'm like, I gotta rewatch, because those first 3 seasons, especially season 2, is like the best season of television like I've ever seen. I think.
Is that the bomb in a body?
It's got the bomb in the body cavity. It's got what else is in season 2? Denny and all of that.
So yeah, my friend Maddie has a podcast called Girl, Did You Watch? And they just like recap TV shows they like, and they just talked about the ending of the latest season. I was like, I gotta get back into this. So yeah. I'll keep you posted.
Okay.
Yeah. So I came to Grey's Anatomy a little bit late, not super late, but I binged the first season right before the second season came out on DVD, because this was in the long ago time where there was not Hulu. And I went on vacation with a bunch of my friends. We rented a cabin in Deep Creek Lake, which is far western Maryland. They got a place with a movie theater in the basement for me, and I binged almost the entire second season of Grey's Anatomy down in that basement. And I also read a whole bunch of Marion Key's backlist there.
I remember this. I remember this. Yes.
And then I think our last full day there, I had 3 episodes of Grey's Anatomy left. My friends kidnapped me from the house, made me hike in the woods to a waterfall. I was a complete bitch about all of it, and I'm not sorry. You let me see what happens with my show. I don't want your nature time.
I very clearly remember this, and you telling me about it when you got back. Side note, we should do a podcast. We should find that cabin and go there and do like a retreat for the podcast there.
Ooh, that would be very fun. Yes.
That would be fun. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. Well, now that we've talked about something not to do with books at all. Okay, Rachael, what are you reading this week?
So I've been in a kind of a slump. I have a lot of books going that I just haven't been interested in really picking up. And then today I was at my parents' house and I forgot to bring a book with me, which is like the worst crime of all, because when you're sitting by the pool, you have to have a book.
Yeah.
Rules. So I looked at their shelves and I picked up this book that I've been wanting to read, Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout.
Oh.
And I've read one other book by her, The Burgess Boys. So this is Olive Kitteridge. I think there's a sequel, Olive again.
Yeah.
Something like that. And I'm only 10 pages in, but I already love it so much. it's giving me A Man Called Uva vibes. It's just something I know I'm going to love. So I'm really excited that I'm reading it. I also just finished Malibu Rising on audiobook this morning, and it was amazing. Like, seriously, I have to read Taylor Jenkins Reid's books now because that was my first one.
You did.
Yeah. So, and then I started Jay's Gay Agenda on audiobook.
Oh, I love
and it's so cute. So I'm in the middle of that as well.
Slump Over, I think.
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Kelly, what are you reading?
Well, unfortunately not Olive Kitteridge, although I have had it for years. I got it on a friend's recommendation, and I trust that friend enough to buy it immediately. And it is not a reflection of her taste that I have not read it yet. I mean, you all know me at this point, but I'm gonna have to move it up, I guess.
It's in our theme song, so
yeah. Everybody acts like it's a joke, but it's just my entire life. But I am reading Ace of Spades by Faridah, Abike, Iyimide, and it is so good. It has been pitched as Gossip Girl meets Get Out.
wow.
And it's really fun. It's this very exclusive school, and it's the kind of school where the best students have been named prefects, and homeroom is called registration, and there's like a headmaster, not a principal, but it's also in America, so it's pretentious is really what it is. And there are literally 2 Black students, both of whom have been named to prefect, but there's this new person called Aces, and they have been texting the entire student body with, really hardcore gossip about these 2 kids, and nobody knows why. But they outed one and said that the other one stole candy, which was actually not true. So I don't know who's doing it or why, but I am all in.
Oh, there's so many books out that are like, it's blank meets Get Out.
Yes.
Yeah.
So far, I don't see Get Out, except that it's Black people in a very white world.
Right.
The other Black girl, the Get Out comparison there was accurate and very, very good.
Okay, interesting.
Please read it so we can talk about the ending.
Yeah, I will soon. I am in the middle of, on audiobook, I'm in the middle of Malibu Rising, and I'm definitely liking it a lot more than Evelyn Hugo. I think her books work better for me on audio because her writing is very, I will say, stripped down. It's, not very flowery. She's very like direct and simple, and like I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just when I'm reading it, I notice it, but when I'm listening to it, I think it's great because it's very easy to get lost in the story.
Yeah.
I'm really loving the flashbacks and the historical timeline about the family, and I'm so in on the children and the family all together. I love everyone. I mean, except for Mick, obviously.
Oh yeah, he's the worst.
Yeah. But there's a scene with the party where I just feel like there's so many characters coming in that I don't care about, that I'm like, why am I hearing about this random person right now? Other than that, though, I really love it. And then I also am in the middle of If the Shoe Fits, which is Julie Murphy's, I think, first adult romance. And it's part of the Meant to Be series, like Disney retellings or fairy tale retellings. And it's a Cinderella retelling. And it's also on a dating show like The Bachelor, which is super fun. And the thing I love the most about it is that she is not playing into the evil stepmother, stepsister trope. The stepmom and the stepsisters are great in this book. They are not.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, she and her stepmom do have a complicated relationship, but it's like more realistic. They don't hate each other and they're both good people, and it's just awkward because she's like, you're my only living parent, but you're not my parent now. So of course there's like some awkwardness, but they both care about each other. I don't know. It's good. And it's just a cute romance. So that's what I'm in the middle of right now.
Nice.
And it comes out in August. I got a copy from NetGalley, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So continuing our trend of good book news only, we just found out that the storied life of AJ Fikry will be made into a movie. I'm so happy.
So
Gabrielle Zevin, who wrote the book, is writing the screenplay,
Oh,
and
awesome.
yes, I'm very excited about that because I mean, you can have a good movie when the author doesn't write the screenplay, like obviously you can, but I feel like this means they're going to take it seriously and respect the source material, and that's what I want from a movie that's made on a book I love. And they have cast Kunal Nair, Christina Hendricks, who I love, and Lucy Hale.
Nice.
So
Oh,
I'm in
cool.
for all of this.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
I did enjoy that book a lot. I will say I think I liked her other book even more, which was Young Jane Young.
Mm,
But I think this will be a great movie.
yeah.
See, I'm the opposite. I liked Young Jane Young a lot, but I liked AJ Fikry more.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
I love AJ Fikry, and I have not read Young Jane Young, although I do have it.
Oh, you got to get on that, Kelly.
I know. I stay
You
on
don't
brand.
have that much to read, so you should be able to get to it soon.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, well, actually, yeah. I probably will get to both soon because
There you go.
hopefully, or not.
And
I
she has
mean,
another-
well,
she-
right now.
She has a book coming out next year called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Is it a time thing?
I don't know. That's why I made a note. I don't know what it's about, but I did make a note about the title. Maybe.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of like adaptations, just wanted to quickly mention because my husband was really excited about it. We were talking about it today. So after like 20 years of trying to get this comic book series adapted to the screen, the Sandman series by Neil Gaiman, which is a DC comic series, has been filming. It's still in post-production. And I don't know where it's going to be aired, where you can stream it, but that has been made into I think a show, like a TV series. So that's exciting because those
That's
are really
very exciting.
Yeah, and he writes good stuff, and all the TV show adaptations of his stuff have been really good too. So
Yeah.
I love Sandman. That's very exciting.
yeah.
Did he
Cool.
do American Gods? That was
Yeah.
Neil Gaiman, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that tweet from last year where Michael Sheen, who I guess is one of the people on that, I don't watch and I haven't read it, but this woman tweeted that she worked in a nursing home and like a woman had COVID and she was about to die and she was watching American Gods and she said that she hoped Michael Sheen's character would be there, you know, basically to guide her on to whatever comes next.
Aww.
And he saw it and he had like the loveliest tweet about it.
Aww.
And apparently it made her really happy. So that's good.
That is great.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's better when you actually read it and not me, you know, telling the vaguest story about it. But
Nice. Well, next is our recent acquisition segment, which is when we talk about the books we've recently bought, borrowed, or been given. Also book adjacent items, as we've also, talked about non-book things, but that are book related. So Kelly, why don't you go first?
okay, first I have to say that I've continued being very disciplined. I bought I Am Not a Wolf by Dan Sheehan. I encountered this account on Twitter and it made me laugh. It is a random human who is definitely not a wolf adapting to life in the modern world, and it made me laugh. So I was like, I'm gonna get this book and we'll see when I read it. I also got Bathhouse by PJ Vernon because it's apparently an incredible thriller.
Nice.
But best of all, okay, so 6 full months ago, my friend Kathy sent me a Christmas present. And this past week, literally this past week, it showed up. And I got a bookmark, a little cartoon of Michael Myers, and it says, "It's Halloween, everyone's entitled to one good scare." And it is the cutest bookmark ever. I love it so much. And
Are you gonna only use it for like horror and thriller books?
no, it's for everything. because it's a cartoon. He's he's a friendly guy. I mean, I just moved it out of frame, but I mean, look at that face. That's good for everything. He looks so happy.
Nice.
I mean, he looks sad and he's a little blood spattered, but it's fine. And best of all, I also got a birthday present, also from my friend Kathy, and it's the softest, fuzziest socks you can imagine. It's Edgar Allan Poe in a Santa hat, and on the bottom it says "Let It Poe."
Nice.
That's cute.
They're the best. The socks are from out of print. I am not sure where the bookmark is from. I think Etsy, because I remember her talking about it.
Yeah.
But buy links hopefully in the show notes because they are both just absolutely amazing and perfect.
So cute. I love that you got birthday presents in June.
I know. And Christmas.
And Christmas present. Yeah.
I mean, time is a social construct.
Yes.
I feel like we learned that last year.
Yeah, for sure.
But also, like, the mail in Baltimore has not been doing well, you guys.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Julia, what about you?
Okay, so I bought Fierce Self-Compassion on my Kindle by Dr. Kristen Neff. That was one of my June most anticipated. And I did start reading it, but I was like, I'm not ready yet. I need to like put it down. I think I'm going to save it for like when I'm having a bad day, which I'm sure will come eventually. And then my book of the month box came this week. So, all right. I don't know what happened to me, but okay. So my book of the month pick was Skye Falling by Mia McKenzie, and I've already read it.
Wow.
It came this week and I've read it already. Isn't that amazing?
Good job.
It was so good. This book, it was a 5-star read. It was funny. It was poignant. It was thought-provoking. It was heart-wrenching. It had I had all the feelings. So many characters who I'm just like, I just want good things for everyone. And they're all like complicated, but like still lovable. The main character, Skye, she's like, it's kind of a coming of age story for her, even though she's literally my exact age. She's 38 3/4, which is my age. And that's how she says her age. And I like laughed out. That was my first LOL. And I was like, okay, I'm in. She's West Philadelphia born and raised, cue Fresh Prince.
I almost kept going.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kept and like there's some Will Smith references too in the book, which is super fun. But she had kind of a tough childhood and she like keeps people at a distance. Like she has kind of distanced herself from her friends from high school, even though they like keep trying to reach out. But she has this travel company that she runs. So she's always traveling, but when she comes back, she stays at this B&B that her high school friend runs. And so they're not super close, but she lets her stay there. And then she finds out, so when she was 26, she donated her eggs to like an old friend from summer camp because she couldn't have a baby. And the child finds her because her mom has died. And so she finds her donor mom and they strike up a relationship. And then all these things start to happen. She starts to realize like it's, human connection is important. It's so good.
Wow.
And I was shocked at how much I loved it. So highly recommend Skye Falling by Mia McKenzie. It's just, if you love Angie Thomas, the voice reminded me of Angie Thomas, even though this is not YA, but just it's written in first person, the way she like talks in the book, the voice just very felt like that. And then I did get The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Harris. So Kelly, I will be reading that hopefully soon. Yes. And then Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian, which is the King Arthur, feminist King Arthur retelling, which sounds great. So
yay. That was a book of the month pick, right? Not an add-on?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's really long though. I don't know when I'll get to it.
I'm just planning my July add-ons.
Yeah.
It is all for that.
For Skye Falling or
for Half Sick of Shadows. I definitely am getting Skye Falling, but I'm thinking
you can borrow it if you want. You would really like it, Kelly.
I'm very excited. It sounds amazing.
Sounds really good. Well, I have a couple of acquisitions to talk about. I got the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. I figured you'd be excited, Kelly.
I'm so happy.
I was just at the bookstore the other day, and then I was buying books for other people for certain Father's Day and birthday gifts. And I was like, I have all these books and nothing for myself. And this was, kind of prominently displayed. So I was like, that looks good. Let's get it. So I'm excited about that. And then I also got approved for If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy on NetGalley. So I did get that, and I'm really excited to read that pretty soon.
Awesome.
Yay.
Cool. Well, this is a really fun episode. We're about midway through the year, so we're going to do our best of 2021 so far. So what are our favorite reads this year so far, and what maybe do we think we're going to definitely get to before the end of the year, and then hope springs eternal that will actually happen. But I'm excited to talk about some of our favorites, and we're going to be joined by Kathy Coe from A Glass of Wine blog. So stick around and we'll be right back. And we are back, and today we are joined once again by our friend Kathy Coe of A Glass of Wine blog, and she is here to help us talk about our favorite reads so far in 2020, since we're at the halfway point. So welcome back, Kathy.
2021.
Did I say 2020?
Yes.
You did.
That's unforgivable.
I mean, it feels true though. Like, it really feels true.
I've been doing it a lot lately. I mean, it just feels like one long year, really. There doesn't feel like a separation. 2021, our favorite book so far. Kathy, how have you been?
I'm good. I hope you guys are all doing well as well. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Always a fun time to have you on. And because we have A Glass of Wine blog here today, of course, we are going to play our patented drinking game. So we're for this one, we're saying repeats are okay. So if we have the same top 5, that's fine, but you take a drink if you have the same book on your list as someone else. So Kathy, I will give you the honor of starting us off. Go for it.
Okay, so my first pick is A Mouthful of Forever by Clementine von Radek. It's a poetry book. I've been doing this thing where I've gotten friends to recommend a book for me, and this is recommended by my friend Kira. And I'm not a big poetry reader, so this one really surprised me, but it's incredibly beautiful. And if you've ever had a heartbreak, you will relate to these poems so much.
Aw, I have.
Yes.
And I highly recommend it.
I've noticed your the challenge you have for yourself of having your friends recommend and have one per month. I really like that. And I've been meaning to check out more poetry, so maybe I will pick that up. All right, great. Rachael, what's your first pick?
Probably one that's gonna make some people drink. That is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. Yay. So this is, of course, her third published novel, and it is a prequel to The Hate You Give. It is about Star's father, Maverick, and, his sort of journey toward becoming a teen dad and sort of his coming of age story and trying to be a better person and, for his kid. And it's just like, it was so heartwarming and lovely and like sad. I cried a lot and also funny. Angie Thomas is a genius. She just knows how to write a book. I can't even, it's hard to describe, honestly.
Yep. And I took a drink on that one. That was on my list as well. I think it's her best book yet. And I think we all talked about it probably in our most anticipated episode this year too. It definitely lived up for me. I think her books just get better and better. I love her voice. Like, that's my favorite thing about her books, is the voice is just so engrossing and, like you said, funny and authentic. And you feel like you're there and you feel like you know these people. And I want only good things for Maverick.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. All right, so that was my pick as well for this round too. So Kelly, your pick, which will end round one.
Okay. The only reason Concrete Rose didn't make my list is that I read it last year. Like literally the only reason, because like everybody, I absolutely love her. She's one of my favorite authors. Right now, also her Twitter is my favorite because of all the Kobe the puppy content. But yeah, like it is
Pretty great.
It's her best book yet, and I think that's saying quite a lot. But my best of 2021 so far, and this is I think my absolute favorite, is Wish You Were Here by Jodi Picoult. It comes out later this year. I loved this book so much. It isn't connected to the Book of Two Ways, which was her last book, but it feels almost like a continuation because the Book of Two Ways is sort of metaphorically dealing with COVID almost, and then this one is actually nuts and bolts dealing with COVID. And the synopsis doesn't make that super clear, but if you don't want your entertainment to deal with COVID, you would want to avoid this. But also reconsider, because one of the things I loved most about it, and I mean, I don't want to talk about this book and take up the entire episode, but at the end, it's a few years in the future, so we are all maybe not 100% back to normal, but we're really like 75% of the way there. And it was so nice to see, even in a novel where we are just all back living our lives. It's amazing, and I think her best book yet.
Wow.
Yep.
Better than Book of Two Ways?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. I can't wait.
It's so good.
Me too. Kathy, we've discussed this a little bit on the podcast, but I'm curious how you feel about books that deal with COVID and the pandemic. Are you into it?
Maybe years from now, not anytime soon.
I feel like everyone has like very strong feelings one way or the other. For me, it's like helpful to see it in books, but I totally understand how for some people it's like, no, I'm not ready.
Yeah, not enough distance.
For sure.
If I had known how much it would be, I don't know that I would have started reading it when I did. But it's so hard because like I don't want to spoil anything, but it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And not what I was expecting. Okay. Sorry.
I'll get to it soon. Okay, round two. Kathy, what's your next pick?
My second pick is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Another book that was recommended to me for that event by Kelly, actually. And it's old Hollywood, characters inspired by regular old Hollywood people that we would know. Like Evelyn Hugo is kind of Marilyn Monroe-esque, mixed with a little bit of maybe Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
One of the guys in the book reminded me of Montgomery Clift a lot. And if you are a Taylor Jenkins Reid fan, someone from that book shows up in her newest book and has a much larger role to play in that new book. But if you're into old Hollywood, it's definitely one you're going to want to pick up.
Cool.
Yeah, there were a couple of Evelyn Hugo references in Malibu Rising. I noticed. That was fun. Cool. Okay, Rachael.
All right. So I think my second pick is going to be, I don't have it with me because I forgot to get off my shelf, but The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. So this was her first published novel, but I hadn't read it before I read her second published novel, To the Bright Edge of the World. And I loved that book. I read it a couple years ago. So this one, I read it earlier this year and I just loved it. New all-time favorite, 5 stars. Just, it was so atmospheric. Her books are just a gateway. Like you are lost in them. You do not exist in your world anymore. Like you are there. And that's what I love about them. And I love books set in Alaska. It's like part of my wheelhouse.
Cool.
Yeah. And there's, light magic. So that's fun. And just her characters, you just want everyone to succeed. You're rooting for them. I just loved it. I loved the book so much.
Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
I like light magic.
Yeah, you would like her books.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll have them at mom's this summer when you're here, so you can pick one up if you want.
Great.
But they're wintry, so you could also just take them home to read in the winter.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, Kelly, what is your second pick?
Okay, my second one, and this is the one that I think might show up on some other lists too. That Summer by Jennifer Weiner. Awesome. Me too.
All right, Rachel and I both drank, so.
But it's so good. Even better, I think, than her one last year. Just really, really solid. And I know what you say will be better because I think I used all my emotion and time on Wish You Were Here. But I absolutely loved this. I loved both perspectives. I loved the take on the Me Too movement, showing again just how necessary it is and how awful it is that it's so necessary. I loved it so much.
I agree. I thought, and I loved Beatrice, the daughter. Her chapters were definitely my favorite, but I loved the whole thing. I definitely read it in like 2 or 3 sittings, tops. And I felt almost when I was reading the prologue, I was like, I just kept thinking like, wow, her writing just gets better and better. And I feel like she doesn't get enough credit for how good of a writer she is. I feel like she's put into this box of like chick lit, quote unquote, which I feel like people used to say more, but and there's nothing wrong with chick lit. I love it, but I don't know. I agree. It was great. And I also loved that. So her book last year, Big Summer, was kind of a murder mystery. This one I thought was going to be a mystery as well, or more thriller-y at first, but it wasn't. And I was glad it wasn't. It was definitely like, okay, we know what's happening pretty early on. Now we're just gonna like learn about how people feel about what's happening, which that's more my speed. So I loved it.
It was so good. It just, I loved it so much.
Yeah. Okay, so that now counts as my second pick.
Your second, yeah.
And that's your third pick, right, Rachel?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'm sorry, guys.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I'm just trying to keep track. So that ends round 2. Rachel started off round 3. So Kathy, what's your third pick?
My third pick is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I think all of you probably have read it. It was everywhere at the beginning of this year. And it's just a really cute, heartwarming, wholesome story about these kids who are in school because they are different. They're either they have abilities or they're monsters. They look monstrous. And it's about the person who runs the school and the person who comes to visit to see what's going on at the school. He's there to kind of like grade them or whatever. And it would make an excellent Netflix animated miniseries, I think.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I haven't read that yet. I do have it though.
Yeah, same.
I do want to get to that. Okay, good pick. So Kelly, what is your third pick?
Okay. My third pick is Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers, which I read early this year, and everything about it I loved so much. Like the dealing with parental disappointment and the trying to reorganize your life after things stop going according to plan, and everything about it, like basically working on your shit so that you can be in a relationship and not blow it. I thought it was an absolute masterpiece. Everything about it, just so good. And I feel like I'm on a One Kelly campaign to get everyone I know to read it.
It worked on us. It was our book club pick, so
Yes,
good job. It was really good. I enjoyed it as well. Okay, I'm excited because this is my first pick that I get to actually pick and not just drink along with. So my first pick my third round pick is Meet Me in Another Life by Katrina Sylvie, which I could not stop talking about when I read it earlier this year. So this is a time loop book, which is definitely, as I mentioned, I feel like every episode, that's definitely in my wheelhouse. But it's the two characters, Thora and Santos, and they keep reincarnating. So in every life, they are a different version of themselves, and their relationship is different. So in one life, they are classmates. In another life, they are teacher student. In another life, they're married. In another life, they are parent and child. And so on and on and on. And they just have all these different, I guess, representations of relationships. And it's like the first third of the book, you think you know what's going on, or you think you know what the author's doing, and then it completely shifts and you're like, wait, what's going on? And by the end, you're like, wow, that was just, I can't say much about it because I would spoil so much, but I just thought it was masterfully done. The characters, the more, every life you learn a little bit more, and there's space stuff. Like they both love space travel, and
Cool.
like, I can't say too much more because then it would spoil it. I really want everyone to read it. It kind of gave me the same feelings as The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell, which I know we're going to be reading for our book club again soon. And I will say, I think the central philosophical question in this book is, are we in charge of our choices, or are all the choices and experiences we've had up until now what are driving what we do going forward? So it's like, is it free will, or is it, social forces, or experiences? I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of philosophical questions to it. It's great. I loved it.
Awesome. That sounds really good. I should read that.
Yep. You should.
Though time travel and space stuff.
Some other things that I can't even say because it would spoil it, but yeah.
No, but I was like, somebody wrote a book for you.
No, I know. I was like, this is tailor-made for me.
Yeah.
It was so good. Okay. So that was round 3, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay, so round 4. Fourth pick, Kathy.
All right. So my next book is Blackout, and bear with me, there's a lot of authors.
Ooh.
So Angie Thomas, Tiffany D. Jackson, Nick Stone, Ashley Woodfolk, Nicola Yoon, and Danielle Clayton.
Ooh.
It is a story written by pretty much all the major Black authors that are out in YA right now, who are extremely popular, and it focuses on a blackout in New York City, but it is different kind of love stories that connect during this blackout. So it's kind of one long journey from the first couple that you meet through to the end, and they're all trying to get to this block party that ends the novel. It's very sweet, very cute,
Aww.
and kind of perfect for summer as you're drinking your favorite beverage.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds so great. Is it set during the big blackout that one summer a few years ago?
I think it's supposed to be that one, but it could also kind of be, because New York's had a few, it could just be like any blackout.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's different kinds of relationships that are showcased, different types of love stories, and it's just really sweet. And I wanted to have Angie Thomas in there some way, but I knew everyone was probably going to pick Concrete Road, so I went with Strout.
Nice.
Oh,
It is
I love
really,
it.
really good. Yeah.
I definitely want to read that. Okay, Rachel, what's your next pick?
Oh, I'm having such a hard time choosing. So I think my next pick is going to be Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I had never read this before this year. I read it for the Taylor Swift readathon we did in March, because it's one of her favorite books and she wrote a song based on it. So it was so good. It definitely, I mean, I wish I had read it in October. It is a very spooky Halloween vibe type book, but it also is just so the story grabs you, and you're just, I flew through it. I read it in my 24-hour readathon, and I just could not stop reading it. I needed to know what happened. I needed to know what happened to, all the characters and what was gonna, come to light, what the mystery was. And it just was amazing. I can't say enough good things about it, but I will say there is, a part in this book that I would say is very problematic, a very unnecessary scene with someone in brown face. So, you know, we always say, oh, it was of the time, but that's no excuse. So just a warning, if you've never read it and you're reading it, it's kind of jarring, honestly. But otherwise, if you like ignored that part, the book is really great.
Maybe they could just take that part out. But I mean,
know.
it's important to recognize like those missteps
that it happened.
and
Yeah,
that it happened. Yeah.
They could take that part out and it would not change the story one bit.
Right.
So I wouldn't be mad if they did, but
Right.
the authors
And maybe have like an editor's note in there saying we remove and like give context about it. I think that might be a good idea.
Yeah, maybe in the next like printing, that would be a good idea.
It must be public domain at this point.
Oh, you're right. It probably is.
Yeah.
I wonder if there is a version where they took that out. Because probably, right? Like
Maybe.
if it's public domain, there might be one.
I'd be curious to see if the new Netflix movie is the edition that was printed with that. Because that would probably be like the newest version.
Right.
It's a good question. We'll have to research.
Yeah, I think this version that I have is from 2006. So it's probably not the most recent one.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's been way more. And then there's an epilogue in here that she wrote on like the 40th anniversary or something of the book coming out, or she wrote it way back then, but she published it like 40 years later, and I hate it. I didn't finish the like epilogue, and I pretend it's not part of the real book because it's anyone who's read the book and read that epilogue probably know why, but I'm not going to spoil it.
Julia Quinn, who wrote the Bridgerton book, and I've been listening to all of them on audio against my better judgment. I mean, they're fun, but they're not like the best books. But I just can't stop. I have to listen to all of them now. But she's added epilogues, like 2 epilogues to every single book since she originally wrote them, and they just go on forever. Like, I have to say, I'm like, I don't like them.
Yeah.
And one of them spoiled me for the next book, which is like, I know. And I'm like, okay, it's hard to spoil a romance because you know they're going to get their happy ending or whatever. But I like, you know, not being spoiled for all the details. And this kind of spoiled some of the details. So I was like, I'm not listening to these anymore. Yeah. Okay, Kelly, have you done your 4th pick yet?
Not yet.
Okay, go for it.
It is We Are Inevitable by Gail Forman, who is one of my favorite authors. And this one was just amazing. So it's this guy, Aaron, and his parents run a used bookstore. But and he used to be like a hardcore reader. But since his brother died and his mom left, now all he can do is read this one book, which is about how the dinosaurs died. And that's what he does. He just reads that book over and over and over.
Wow.
And he sort of thinks of himself and his family and the bookstore as these dinosaurs who are dead and just sort of don't know it and don't like basically like the asteroids hit, but they don't know it and they're just sort of stumbling around waiting to die. But he ends up kind of accidentally becoming friends with somebody, his friend Chad, and really just sort of getting pulled back into the world almost against his better judgment and very much against his own desires. But I loved it. And I mean, if you've read Gail Forman, which Kathy, I know you have, like you know it's going to be so well written and that you will cry probably at least a handful of times. And everything about it I thought was just perfect.
Nice.
That sounds great. Okay, well, my 4th pick should come as no surprise to anyone who's listened to this podcast. It's Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
Did you read that? Did you like it?
Yeah, I loved it. 5 stars. I'm obsessed with it. It's so fun. I won't drone on about it because I've talked about it so much, but it has one of the cutest friendships that I've ever read in a book. just loved it so much. And I can't say much because it would spoil it, but there is a buddy friendship dynamic that is just one of the best that I've ever read. So and it's about a guy who has to go into space to save the world, and he's out there by himself. So but there's flashbacks and stuff, so there's other characters similar to The Martian. So if you liked The Martian, you'll definitely like this. But typical Andy Weir humor, and just a really good time. So yeah.
Awesome.
All right, so that's round 4. So final picks. Wow. All right, Kathy, what is your final favorite book of 2021 so far?
All right, so we have a repeat author. It's Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's pretty much one of my favorite authors at this point. I've read every single book I've read of hers. This one focuses more on siblings than some of her other books. It's about the Rivera siblings, and that name may seem familiar to those who read Evelyn Hugo. And they throw an epic party every summer, and this is what happens one year at this party where things go very, very wrong.
Yep. I'm in the middle of it right now, and I'm really enjoying it. And I love the siblings and their relationships. So yeah, that's a great pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just finished it this morning. Yeah.
But it's not your 5th pick. No.
Can we just take a minute though to say that Mick is the absolute worst?
Yeah.
The worst.
Yeah.
He's
If you hated him in Evelyn Hugo, you will hate him even more in this one.
Remind me what his deal was in Evelyn Hugo, because I read it. I can't remember now.
He's the singer that she marries, and they like get an annulment really, really quickly.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. On brand.
Yeah. On brand. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, Rachael, what's your 5th and final pick?
I don't know. Too many choices. I think I'm gonna go with Pumpkin by Julie Murphy. I read this book at the exact right time. I needed it. Waylon is the best person on earth. I know he's fictional, but I want all good things for him. He is a senior in high school in Clover City, Texas, and he is gay. He's one of the only out gay kids, around. There are some others, but he's also a fat kid, and so he feels like that is another sort of barrier to his social life. He's never had a boyfriend. He kind of has a guy he fools around with, but it's not public. It's not really serious. And he loves watching drag shows on TV. There's a fictional version of RuPaul's Drag Race that he's obsessed with. And he kind of plays around with trying out drag himself. And someone sort of plays a prank on him and nominates him for prom queen, but he just decides to lean into it and run for prom queen. So it's just such a fun book. You get all the characters from the other books in this series, from Dumplin' and Put In. So you got a lot of fun cameos of your favorite characters. He's a twin, his twin sister. She's also gay. Her girlfriend, Hannah, who is a pretty big character in Dumplin', she's also a pretty big character in this one. Hannah gets nominated for prom king. So I love this book. I love his little romance he gets, into with who, I won't say who, but I love it.
Rachael, I think I'm going to take a drink. I think that's because I was debating what my 5th pick should be. And just hearing you talk about it just brought me back to reading it. And I loved that book so much. So
yeah,
it's hard. Yeah. It is hard to pick a 5th, but I'm going to, yep.
Yay.
Very close to being on my list too.
Yeah.
That and Blackout were very close to being on mine.
So good. All right, Kelly, what is your 5th and final pick?
Outlawed by Anna North, because the book that I should not have loved and that I loved beyond all reason, because it's sort of Western and it's alternate history and it's just kind of weird, but also very gay, which makes it something I would be interested in, and very feminist. And oh my God, like everything about this book I thought was just a complete delight. Everything about it I loved.
I can't believe we read that book just this year.
I know.
Yeah.
The kid,
Like one of the first ones.
the kid is one of the best characters ever.
Oh yeah.
I
So
agree.
good. Yeah.
I love the kid.
Kathy, have you read that book?
I haven't, no, but it's on my list for sure.
You should read it. Yeah, for sure.
That and Honey Girl from listening to this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of books that you should read, so what is everyone should pick a book that they are, you know what would be fun? Why don't we pick one that someone else mentioned that we want to get to this year, and then another one that's like you're definitely going to read. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Kelly, do you want to go first?
Yes, I do. Okay, so the one that I had originally was It Goes Like This by Miel Moreland. The cover is absolutely gorgeous, but it's about these girls, and in middle school they form a band, probably like a bunch of people think about doing, and maybe like have like one half-ass performance in the backyard, right, that you charge the neighbors for. But no, this band actually ends up like famous, like Beatles famous, in middle school.
Like the
Wow.
Lindas.
Yes. And then they break up and it all falls apart. And sometime later, but not super late, because they're all still teenagers, they're not friends anymore, they're not performing anymore, and they don't talk like at all. But then a disaster hits their town, so they agree to do one show to raise money, and it sounds amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And the one that from what other people were talking about, this one is actually really hard, because I really want to read pretty much everything that you guys have talked about that I haven't already read. But I'm going to go with A Mouthful of Forever, that Kathy mentioned, because we talk on Twitter like every day in a DM. And Kathy sent me like some of the poems and like lines of the poems, and it's amazing and so powerful. And I'm trying to read more poetry that I've actually been doing pretty well this year, by which I mean I think I've read two poetry books, and I'm very excited to make this number 3.
Great. Okay, Rachel, what's one book that you have on your list that you're definitely going to read, and one that you heard today that you want to check out before the end of the year?
So this book's been on my shelf since late last year, and I was so excited to read it, but then I read a bunch of books that were just like of the same theme and got a little burnt out, and I didn't want to read it burnt out because I know it's a book I'm going to love. So I wanted to wait until I was ready to read it. And that is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. So my plan is to read this by the end of the year for sure. And then for one of the ones that you all have mentioned, it's tough because there's two that I really want to get to, but I think I'm going to go with The House on the Cerulean Sea that Kathy mentioned. It's on my Kindle. I've had it forever. I know I'm going to love it. I need to read it.
Yes.
I love Addie LaRue so much.
Me too. That was definitely on my top 5 last year.
Yeah, it was from last year.
Yeah. All right, Kathy, one book that you definitely are getting into this year, and one book you heard today that you want to get to.
Okay, well, my pick is Darling by Kay Ingram.
Yay!
And I'm excited to get to that hopefully next. And from listening to you all, it is hard because there's quite a few, but I'm going to go with Honey Girl that Kelly picked. Because I listened to the episode, you guys talked it up so much, I can't wait to get to it.
It's so good.
Good. Yeah.
I am shocked that you haven't read Darling, because that is your wheelhouse, Kathy.
I know.
It's not out yet.
But she has it. She showed it to us right there. It's so pretty.
I've had the arc and I still haven't gotten to it. I'm getting my final copy this week, so yeah. I mean, I guess I could pick that one, but I'm also definitely going to read The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Harris, especially because it's so buzzy. It's been being talked up for over a year. I feel like at this point, everyone's reading it. I work in publishing. Everyone I know is reading it. I want to be part of the conversation. So that's one reason. That's why it's on my like must read list. And then I think I'm going to read The Haus on the Cerulean Sea as well. I also have it on my Kindle. I just have to get to it. Everyone I know who's read it loved it. So yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
I'm so happy right now.
No one picked my picks.
Yours was like in the running. I almost said Project Hail Mary.
Yeah. Well, also most of mine were books you guys have already read. So
right.
That's true too.
I mean, really, Meet Me in Another Life. I definitely want to read that. And you're forgetting that in the intermission, I literally put Skye Falling next up on my TBR. So, I mean, you're doing fine, buddy. You're doing fine.
Skye Falling almost made my top 5. It's that good. So, yeah, nice. Definitely. All right. Well, this was so fun. It's always great having you on, Kathy. Remind our listeners where they can find you and follow you.
You can follow me on Twitter at Kathy Coe, KATHYCOE. My blog will be in the show notes. I can never remember my own blog link. I'm also on Instagram at glassofwine81.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was amazing.
It was fun.
And that's our show. If you want to listen to any of these books, they're all available on Libro FM. And if you don't have a membership, you can get 2 books your first month with the promo code What You Should Read, all one word.
Yes, and be sure to follow us on social media. We are WYSR_podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. We are What You Should Read podcast at gmail.com. If you'd like to email us, you can find us on Goodreads, What You Should Read podcast. And please leave us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts.
And look out for our next book club episode. We will be reading The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. And that episode will be sometime in August. And now you know what you should read.
And it's The Haus in the Cerulean Sea. You're welcome.
You know what you should read.
It's time for What You Should Read, the podcast all about the titles you need. Join 3 book lovers and a guest as they cover all the best new titles to enjoy with your tea.